What's up, guys? CHF here, and we have got an interesting video today, guys. We are going to be talking about bans. We are going to be talking about accusations of game changer corruption and all kinds of drama, guys. So if you followed my Instagram, you may have seen last week that there were a bunch of bans that hit the #1 overall league in the world. No Name Ballers. There was a ton of drama behind the scenes with top leagues getting involved, tons of accusations that got thrown around. So I want to give you guys my take, my perspective, what I think I found out, and more importantly, I've actually got a member of No Name Ballers who's going to be coming on right now, really for an interview. I want to get his perspective, what his thoughts are. He's got some salacious allegations, which I'll let you guys be the judge of what you think of them, but I just kind of want to give you guys some context. So guys, without further ado, let me introduce Norf from No Name Ballers. Norf, you are officially live. Why don't you say hello to the people?
Hello, people. CHF, it's a pleasure. Well, I wish it was under different circumstances, but it's a pleasure to be a guest and have access to the platform on your channel, my friend.
Well, thanks, man. So, you know, as everybody saw, there were a bunch of people who were banned. Norf, were you one of the guys who was banned, or did you escape this?
I escaped this. I was not a culprit, but
Okay.
we did have a total of 10 members banned. I think it was a week ago tomorrow. So, yeah, it was something that definitely rocked our league. The timing was very questionable and also very disadvantageous as we'll all go through the whole story, but you'll find out how it impacted us and impacted our league and what we're doing going forward.
Awesome. So, you know, I want to talk first about what it wasn't, because, you know, I covered when we saw the She Loves the D and Heroic Destiny and these other leagues that were banned for using like hack utilities and things like that. Leagues were reset, like Mad Scientist. There were quite a few. And this is something that is, from everything I've gathered from everybody I talked to, completely different. You guys were not using third-party hack utilities, not cheating in any way like that. Is that correct?
That's correct. Unequivocally, we were not hacking. We were not manipulating the code within the game. Additional things that people have approached us about, there was no third-party currency that we were doing. There was nothing of that nature. Now, granted, none of the people who have been banned have been notified exactly what the ban was, but I can say unequivocally there was no hacking, manipulation of the code, or third-party currency exchange.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's kind of, you know, when you first see something like that, those are the first things that come to mind is, you know, somebody buying coins, is somebody buying fraud cash,
Right.
is somebody hacking. And, you know, it's funny. So from talking to everybody, from talking to you, from kind of looking around, the speculation is that you guys essentially violated a portion of the terms of service, that while they exist, at least in my time of Madden Mobile, I've never seen it enforced, and that is the idea of account sharing. Now, it's kind of, you know, it's almost the not so dirty little secret, because
Right.
the reality is a lot of leagues will share accounts, and it's for various reasons. I know last year a lot of leagues would share accounts for the purposes of live countering. Sometimes people would share accounts to let, you know, the best player in the league do their drives for them in a top match. But from everything that I've gathered, it seems like that is probably what caused it. So, you know, I hate to put you on the spot, and because essentially then you're kind of admitting, and I will say, I know with 100% certainty that No Name Ballers, if it was in fact account sharing, that you guys are not the only league that shares accounts.
That's true. And from what I understand, just to hop into that, from what I understand, like I said, EA has been very cryptic, non-explanatory, lots of point and look over here, go this route. But from what we understand, yes, we believe it was account sharing. And a lot of it is similar to what you led off with in terms of, I know it's not live countering this year, but adjusting to defensive strategy, because there's such a diverse with all the different schemes and playbooks and ways that you can run things. You can set up from a defensive standpoint. And similar to last year, if you catch someone driving on you in their first or second drive, you can go in and adjust the defensive strategy. And we believe that it's something pertaining to that. I know people did have access to other people's accounts, and I know some of them were the ones that were banned, but then I know that there were some that did not or were not accessed during the time frame. So it's hard to say nail down, but if I were to put out the best guess, that's probably what I'm leaning towards. And like you said, we are not the only ones who have done that. We've had other people, both publicly, privately, state that they did this very rampantly last year, this year, and whatnot. But it wasn't where we have lots of very solid players, but nobody's in there running drives or doing anything extra or manipulating anything from that aspect. So okay. I think you're right on that standpoint. And unfortunately, we were the ones that got caught. And how we got caught, as we're about to find out, is a little questionable in the manner that it happened. So sure. It is what it is. We'll own up to what we think or know we've done, but sure. Within the community, people who are our peers, some of the top ranked leagues admit that they've done it. And they look at this and we've been told, hey, it sucks that this happened to you and wish it wasn't the case, but it is what it is. I just wish there was more transparency from the other end side.
Makes a lot of sense. So I want to give you a chance. So, you know, I talked about it in the intro where obviously we've kind of talked a little bit about the bans, and, you know, I'll get a little further as we get further into the interview. I'll kind of give you my thoughts on like the broader picture around bans. But I want to, because of the circumstances of these bans, you know, I want to first state, you know, a lot of people watching my channel know I used to be a game changer. And, you know, a lot of the times people throw out these allegations of, oh, a game changer's banning me or something like that. So I want to first, and I'm going to go on the record with this only because other game changers have already gone on the record with this. Game changers do not have any ability to ban. However, as many game changers have said publicly, privately, the way it works is, you know, we, as game changers, we were essentially kind of the eyes and ears of EA, helping with, you know, glitches, bugs, or if something suspicious gets reported to us. For example, when I did my, you know, my video about She Loves the D and Mad Scientists and went into that.
Right.
Before I made that video, the first thing I did was I took all of that information and I gave it to a game changer who I know so that they could then pass that along. And essentially, they, as the game changer community, are able to say, hey, you know, got someone who saw this suspect film over in this league. And essentially all the game changer could do is then pass that on to EA, and then EA would do whatever investigation method they have, and they wouldn't even tell the game changer that they did anything or anything. Like, we're right. Complete lack of involvement. But, you know, at the same time, if someone would report something to a game changer, our role was, you know, to be EA's eyes and ears and pass that along. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes here, North, to just jump into everything that happened leading up to that and what makes you guys suspicious, and just kind of talk through that. So I'm going to hand it over to you, my man, and just kind of give me some context leading up to the bans. What happened? What do you guys think are there? Again, I can't really confirm or deny anything. I'm not a game changer, so I have no idea what was going on in game changer chat or anything like that. But go ahead. Let's share with everybody kind of what happened leading up to that and what you guys are thinking.
Okay. So it's been a long road. I mean, the season started back in August, but I'd say that the roots of this story and what happened in our relationship with certain game changers and certain leagues dates back to, I think, based on the timeline that I saw, exchanging with one particular game changer, was back mid-January. We matched up with PTI, who, depending on the time of the day now, is anywhere from first to third. And lots of people, when you're, as you know, at this level, you have access to messaging people and whatnot. So just exchange some pleasantries. Good luck. Hey, good luck in the match going forward. Well, this particular game changer, Red, came back to me and said, hey, all the luck in the world. However, we've heard some rumors that No Name Ballers uses some different methods, and he was very specific in terms at the time, and it's since been fixed. There was a quote, it was an audible glitch where essentially you could go in, having found this out after the fact. We unequivocally never used this in any of our matches, but you could essentially pick a play, see what the defensive lineup was, and then reset the play, do it off. That was being floated around that we were doing this. He was the only one to directly confront me and talk to me about it, and I appreciated that. I put him over in a lot of different chats. However, there were lots of other comments. We ended up winning that match back in January. Nothing ever came of it. However, accusations still continued to float around. Hey, does No Name Ballers use this audible glitch? Does this league use the audible glitch? There's got to be some. It would be floated around the Peyton Manning Omaha would be sent out when people thought it was being done. It was just kind of a, haha, we don't know if you're doing it, because there's nothing to our extent or knowledge that can prove any of it. But I know that it was something that once we heard about it, being an admin within No Name Ballers, we reached out and we decided, hey, we are putting a stamp down. We are not going to do this. This is if it's found that you're doing it. And I told Red this in our exchange, that if there's any evidence that somebody in our league did this, come back to me and I will own up to it. I'll go on whatever platform he has, you have, and say, hey, this happened. We're shutting this down. We're done. But that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's
funny
anyway,
because I actually knew about the glitch, and I normally like to to bring things there, but one thing I try to make very careful on my channel is I'm not going to bring out anything that's cheating. So even though I knew it was there, I even knew how to do it, never did it, never told a single person how to do it. And then of course EA did in fact fix it. And the way I looked at that was, yeah, if anybody is doing that, I mean, it definitely is cheating. And I even had to think through, well, how do you prevent it where, normally you may only have like 1 to 3 plays in a certain situation. Well, my best guess was just load it up with all 5 and hope that they go in, they see one front, they do their audible glitch, and then they come in, and because there's 5 different play options, hopefully it shuts it down. So, but at the end of the day, now they fixed that. EA fixed that. So even if anybody was, if they didn't shut you down and prove it, that's not what it could have been, in my opinion.
Exactly. But the problem with that is that even though it's since been shut down, even going up to about a week or 2 ago, there were members of PTI who continually accused us of doing that, whether it was passive aggressively or directly to us in chats or anything like that. There were heavy accusations, and that happens to a lot of different people for whatever reason. But for some reason, PTI was very specific and adamant that No Name Ballers did this.
Okay.
I don't understand whatever that relationship is, whatever we did, so be it. Going forward, I did continue to have a positive relationship with Red. He helped us. We had a match back in, I think it was early to mid-February, and I alluded to this on one of your live streams before Heroic Destiny got reset, was that we had a loss to them where they just had the craziest stat. It was like over 7 points per drive against us, whereas all the other top leagues were getting anywhere from 5.5 to just over 6. They were hitting all of their 2-point conversions, especially HB Toss strong at like 21 out of 22 or 22 out of 23 up against very specific counter defenses. And it's like, okay, we know what's going on here. They were breaking off 4th and 24 HB dive runs where it's like, okay, come on. It just didn't add up.
Right.
But it was what it was. We took our loss, but I did have Red reach out to me and say, hey, it sounds like you guys had a tough loss. So that was kind of our engagement. He and I worked together. I provided him some information, and it sounds eventually that the bans he did, I didn't think of it at the time. I thought of it more as, hey, they uncovered some of the hacking glitch based on this. But the more that I reflect on it, it sounds that he got a couple different bans by submitting video and whatever the process is that EA uses to review and reflect. I know 2 or 3 accounts from Heroic Destiny ended up getting bans, and ultimately they were reset. So that was a little bit of the vindication, because I know that was a portion of Stop the Hop, and that me and other top leagues were trying to hunt down these top leagues and give them losses, because it was a flawed leaderboard that, albeit a game, it's something we take competitively, and we didn't want that corrupting the leaderboard. So that was something that I trusted and put over Red, even though we were having whatever relationship with the game or with PTI and their different members there. I felt like I could always go to Red, and he and I could do that. However, as we moved on and things continued to get salacious, and when I say that a league didn't like us, it was where when we threw out just a general accusation of back when, I think it was a few weeks ago, that 3 or 4 defensive plays just out of the blue were removed over the weekend. You remember that? Yep. So you
where
couldn't
EA had
play
a
those
power outage or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
power outage.
Yeah.
But they had enough power to remove these plays inexplicably, and you just couldn't play whatever that defense was. There was an allegation by somebody who used to be part of the No Name Network who reached out to me and a couple different admins and who had matched PTI, and they said, this just kind of feels fun. Now, I'll go on record and say I don't think that any Game Changers had any information on this. I don't think PTI knew about this. But it was something where the personality of some of the members here in No Name Ballers. Our co-commissioner DMB threw it out there and said, hey, it's kind of funny that PTI is so open to accuse No Name Ballers of cheating. But when this happens, conveniently, they've done all of their drives. They've faced all of our members. But now half of this league can't play them. It just feels a little fishy. And that was when it was in the top 100 commissioner chat. So Judd, who is a Game Changer, if I'm not mistaken, responded to DMB with a very candid, and I know this is a family-friendly show, but it was a blank off DMB, as well as subsequent tirade, whatever, against him for how could we possibly accuse PTI of doing anything like that, even though they're more than welcome to come at No Name Ballers with all the accusations that they have.
Right.
I responded. I happen to be a commissioner of another segmented league from the No Name Network, No Name Legion. I responded and I said, hey, it's good that you're at least being direct with this in your responses and not telling us to just kind of jumping around the fact. Well, he came back at the same message with me of basically blank off. I was like, fine, so be it. If this is going to be the candor and this is how it's going to be, so be it. But does not feel that it's a good reflection of the Game Changer community, and to have a specific league that we have this level of banter and this level of, I guess, dislike for one another. Fine, so be it. So then moving down the road, I guess I'll get to the actual nuts of the story, and that's where it was about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, middle of the week, where we'd had several mid-100s matchups, and it wasn't very competitive. And it's something where you want to try and spice up the game. So one of our risky reached out to Judd and said, hey, I know that our spin times are near each other. Is there any way that we could line up a competitive match? You're a top 5 league. We're a top 5 league. Let's see if we can't have a competitive match, see what's going on. Coordinated it, decided it'd be easier to handle over the weekend. We ended up having to hold our spin, so not spin right away, wait until we were matching their time, and then also drop our member count in order to, they only spun, I believe, 20.
Right.
Meanwhile, we were in the 22 to 26 range. So we afforded all of the adjustments to them, went in, faced them. I even sent Red a good luck message, which I don't think he's read to this day. So be it. I see where we're at from that standpoint.
Sure.
Went in, had a match. It was a good competitive match. We ended up taking that one by about 60-65. Move on down the road. Good game to them. Don't think anything of it. The next day, we end up spinning, matching Prestige Worldwide. Also one of the top 3 leagues. In fact, at this point, where they're at and the way they're playing, number 1.
Right.
That's where they sit right now. Played them, had an abs, and the PTI match was Saturday into Sunday. Then the Prestige Worldwide match was Sunday into Monday. So we're running our drives, running our defense, and because EA, for whatever reason, doesn't put out what teams' powers are, you have to go in and manually calculate it still.
Right.
We're going through and we're looking at the roster, and so that we don't mess anything up from our end, we go to their team page and we see all of a sudden that they've added a member who goes by the name of Whodunit. I think it's a 61 overall Kansas City Chiefs account.
Yep.
Known throughout the community as being an alt for Red, Game Changer admin for PTI. So he's sitting in there, and this is someone who was adamantly against or forced up. He didn't want league hopping, but now he's curiously in their league. So we try to prod them, find anything out through the LVL chat, send messages via different chat apps on the side. Ultimately, don't get anything from it. So be it. We play our match, do what we do. Absolutely phenomenal match. Came down like 2 minutes left. Both sides are kicking or going for 2-point conversions. We ended up taking that one by, it was a gut wrenching loss on there, and all phenomenal game to them. All the games that we've had with Prestige Worldwide this year, absolutely phenomenal. Hats off to them. And that's something that I want to make sure is out there, is that when we lose to a league, we'll take our hats off. If we legitimately lose, by all means, hats off to them. Hats off to Gunslingers, who we matched the next day, lost in a heartbreaking fashion. So now we've had 3 or 4 top 5 matches in a row.
Right.
End up losing that one by 1. Literally coming down to the end, then miscommunications. They beat us by 1.
Okay.
So now we take this gut punch, and you've played extremely competitively, and you lose one of those matches. It
hurts, man. I'll be honest. I'm glad
hurts.
I'm not playing competitively anymore, because I'm just kind of over the game. But
I've sent you messages where I'm like, I am so jealous of you for not being like that, because like on Saturday or Sunday when I have one of these matches and I'm just staring at my phone and my wife's like, God, you were just addicted to that. I'm like, yeah, I kind of am. I need to figure this out. Get like,
man, I've been there last year when there was live countering. Like, my league, we didn't allow account sharing. So I mean, there were, no joke, like there were stretches where we'd have back-to-back matches. And I was up for 48 freaking hours straight just to live counter, and like I don't miss that at all. Like, it's so nice that I can play, now I play maybe like 15-20 minutes a day, and that's about it. If the game was better, I'd probably still be playing competitively. I'm just not a fan of this year's game.
Yeah. I don't.
So brutal stretch. You're splitting them. You're getting a win versus PTI. A close win over PWW, a close loss to Gunslingers, and now we're almost approaching kind of the D-Day moment of when.
Exactly. Well, I mean, that's what's next. So we've taken this gut punch. Like, I literally set my phone down and I just walk away. God, that one hurts, because we had it and we should have won. But anyway, so spin right away. That's what you do. End up matching PWW again. So now we have our 4th match in a row, and I'm just like, should I take up drinking at this point, or what do I do? But no, we're starting to strategize, and then all of a sudden one of our admins pops into, we have our side chat on Slack. He's like, guys, my account's been banned. What are you talking about? So that's when things start going, and you know how it works. If you hop into the chat section of your league, it'll show donated crowns, do all this, but it shows, hey, this account got banned. We have 10 deep accounts. And so I just sent a message out. I'm like, we're screwed. It wasn't screwed, but I mean, it just, where you're at. You're up against Prestige Worldwide. They're going to come in. They ended up mowing us. Yeah. It's a loss.
Yeah, it's a loss. You don't have 10 accounts in a match like that. You're done. You don't have a chance.
You're done. But when you go back and you look, all right, we've had all of these accusations before about cheating from PTI. We have the history of Red proactively reaching out to me when we took our loss from Heroic Destiny. Then we have this, what we thought was a straightforward match with PTI. However, the very next day, Red is hiding an account within alleged rivals league. And we even had, I think I shared with you a screenshot where Dees, the commissioner of Prestige Worldwide, said, hey, Red reached out to me, asked if he could come in and review film of this match. And it's something where he's fine with it. He wants to bring them in, so be it. But you look at it and all the things adding up, and for it to be over account sharing, where it's something like we said is so rampant among the top leagues because of the live countering aspect, ultimately it comes down. Red, as one of my league mates so aptly puts it, was a cockroach and came in, got 10 of our accounts banned, and now we're in the rebuilding phase. We're not quite pouring dirt on our grave as you suggested, but I think
I wasn't saying that we're done. I was saying, like, rip, like, that hurts, man. You lose 10 killer accounts. I mean, that, you guys,
lose 10 killer accounts, and the thing is, when you look at it, in order to achieve that, not everyone, I mean, from my aspect, I extremely minimize. I do not spend on my accounts, but to get to those levels, and people who don't want to grind, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds and thousands of dollars get plugged into these accounts that over wherever you want to put that on the scale, I get it. Terms of service is terms of service, and that's all we're getting Vanna Whited, where anytime we ask why we got banned, we're being shown this. But on the scheme of things, I think there's ways that we could adjust the game and allow different people to manipulate defensive strategy within their own league. Right. And then maybe we wouldn't have that. But I'd say for that to be taken away from people who have spent that level of money with absolutely no explanation, and it feels like somebody who you just beat is just out to get retribution against you. Yeah, it stinks.
Yeah. I can imagine. And, of course, and this is one of those things, there's no proving it. But I want to be clear on kind of my stance, because everyone knows, if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, that look, whether I'm a game changer or not, I'm a fair play advocate. When I see mass bans coming around, whether it's for like coin buying or whatever it may be for, I generally support that. And, account sharing is something that I've wanted enforcement on account sharing for a very long time. But what strikes me about this whole situation is how it kind of went down, where it was you guys who were hit with that. However, I'd bet the freaking house on it that there are other leagues in the top 100 that share accounts, rampantly as well. And my issue is that why weren't all of them banned as well? In fact, like if I look at it and I saw, oh my God, everybody's going crazy because we had a whole Bangate situation where all of these people got banned for account sharing in No Name Ballers and in every other league, even if it's just in the top 100. But if they, investigated more than just one league for this, and we saw a big sweeping ban, we probably wouldn't even be having this interview right now, because I would look at that and say, look, hey, EA, they're cracking down on account sharing. I'm your cheerleader on that one. Good job, EA. But to single out one league, specifically the top league, now maybe they can look at it and say, we're making an example of the #1 league or something like that. But in order to make an example of it, they would have to say, look, they were account sharing. We banned them. Stop account sharing or you're going to get banned too. And if they did something like that, maybe I'd even be okay with that. But the way it seems, where you guys get hit for what appears to be account sharing, and nobody else has told me that they've had bans for account sharing. And I can say with certainty, I know account sharing goes on in a lot of leagues.
Exactly.
That's where it seems questionable. It leaves me scratching my head a little bit, because the circumstances of it, and, I'm not going to hop on board and jump right into, because, the obvious allegation from No Name Ballers, yourself and everybody else, is PTI Game Changers targeted us, a league that,
100%.
we're closely competing with. They target us. They get 10 of our accounts banned, which obviously, if they're, as you said, between 1 and 3, harming you guys.
If you were to look at the leaderboard right now, I think they're #1 right now. And so be it, if that's the way that they want to approach it. Obviously, I'm admittedly salty about it, and I've lost a lot of respect. But here's the thing, is that if you have people in that position, it's challenging for them to have access to feed information to EA and have them compete as competitively as they do. It seems like it's a conflict of interest, because I and none of my other league mates, because nobody else in No Name Ballers is a game changer, whereas PTI has 3 known game changers. They have that access to go into other leagues if they're granted to and provide other people film, whereas I would have to take that additional layer. It's a conflict of interest, especially if they're leveraging it at this convenient time for them to get into the top spot. And it's something where I would love, and I get that they can't have an open and candid conversation because of whatever NBA and other restrictions that they have. But that more or less goes to more of the silence and the frustration that we get from EA. And that's more of what our frustration is that, and I told this to you, it's like, if you got pulled over and you were speeding, so be it. But if you get pulled over and you don't get told what it is, but you get your car taken away and now you can't use it, that's where we have a problem. That's where we're feeling that this is a mismatch in terms of punishment to the crime, as well as the ability to enforce that crime or enforce what they did. And provide film to EA that we're not able to. Ultimately, those conflicts and the lack of communication make this challenging to look at as a respectable game within the community. And that's where, even though we're going to bounce back, we're still going to vie for our number one spot. There's a lot of asterisks on this season, and ultimately it feels like a failure from an EA standpoint.
Oh, I mean, there's no question this year has been a failure. And it's funny, you know, this whole topic of competitive game changers, right? This is something that it's not new. I mean, it's not a new controversy. Right. You go back to the forum, like in prior years. I mean, I even remember, you know, when I was playing competitive, when I first became a game changer, like there were some people out there who said game changers shouldn't be allowed to play competitively last year. And, you know, part of me, like I'm kind of in the middle there where I look at it and I think, you know, hey, look, just because someone, you know, being a game changer is kind of a thankless job. You know, a lot of people don't really understand what goes into it, but I mean, it's a time commitment. Like if you're a game changer, you know, you're talking to EA daily, you're talking to the community. If people know you're a game changer, you're gonna get DMs from just random people who are gonna reach out to you for whatever reason. It's a thankless job. They're often kind of thrown in the crosshairs. They're almost even blamed for EA's failures, even though they have nothing to do with that. But when something like this comes up, and I'm, you know, in editing, North, you know, I'm putting up, you sent me a bunch of screenshots of things like, you know, that when you mentioned Deez's conversation, you know, where he said that Red approached him to come in. You know, it wasn't that he asked a game changer to come in there. And, you know, what I think that, you know, kind of leaves me scratching my head is the one where you guys, I guess, finally got almost like a template email back from EA, which I'm going to put up on the screen right now, where it says, you know, thank you for contacting us about your ban. Account was found to have suspicious activity indicative of cheating. Cheating breaks through, just super generic. Doesn't say what kind of cheating or anything there. Did you guys, since you sent that to me, have you guys heard anything back? Or I know that they mention, you know, your appeal can be escalated for investigation. Did you guys go through that process? Where is that as of this filming?
So as of right now, and even earlier this morning, several of the members who have been banned continue to follow up. And since there's no formal, it's not the easiest thing in the world. And I get why, because I'm sure there are plenty of people who get banned and deserve it.
Everyone who gets banned is always innocent. That's
exactly
the one thing.
And so I'm sure they would just get blown up on that end. But they're pushing because they've invested, like I said, lots of money into this. And so the most recent ones are just telling us that, hey, you've reopened a ticket. We're going to close this one out. Please refer to the original ticket. And it's like, well, there's been so many different EA customer tickets that you don't even know what it is. So now the point where they're at is trying to figure out which ticket they need to try to escalate. And that's just so convoluted on all ends. And it's like, you know, make this easier. If there was something, and I even alluded to that, I showed you a little snippet that one of the other game changers sent over to us, is that there's a potential warning. If there had been some sort of warning or anything where it wasn't, hey, here's capital punishment on your account for doing this, it'd be so much easier. But instead, we don't even know which rabbit to try and chase, which pole to try and go up in order to get this escalated from that standpoint. And so it's just guys who have nothing left to lose. Sure, they're playing with their alt accounts now in our league, but they've had that level of money taken away from them, which I get it. All the top leagues, everyone says, hey, you're pay to win. You're all. Ultimately, it's still cash that they chose to invest in these accounts.
Sure.
So they're doing everything they can to try and dig this up. But no, there's no further escalation. It just seems like email ping pong back and forth of technicalities on why things can or can't get looked into. And it's a frustrating process, but I'll continue to work with you because you've been very open and gracious on this standpoint. I'll send you any legitimate updates on this whole ban gate, as we're calling it, or whatever you want to term that. But so far there's nothing. It's just a whole bunch of frustration.
Yeah. And that's my thing, where I look at it, you know, and I said it, you know, up front, you know, normally I'm all for bans. If someone violates the terms of service, like whether it's coin buying or even account sharing, I mean, I'd love to see account sharing enforced. I don't think for account sharing, and this is just me again, my personal opinion, I don't think a permanent ban for account sharing should be the way to go, especially on a first offense. I would love to see EA do something along the lines of how Supercell handles it, where if they are able to find out, look, we've got this one device who's logging into 10 different accounts. Well, okay, blanket those 10 accounts with a 30-day ban where everybody who logs in, your account has been banned for 30, and it says this like in Clash of Clans, if you do this, your account has been banned for 30 days for account sharing. I feel like if everybody got that and EA did a 30-day ban, whoever that happened to, you know, especially if it said further violation of this policy will result in a permanent ban, nobody would be sharing accounts after that first 30-day ban. I think everybody will have learned their lesson and said, look, this is not worth the risk associated with this. But I think what bugs me the most is just kind of how, one, you know, hey, look, if EA wants to go straight to permanent bans, it's a little stricter than I think is warranted, but they need to, in my opinion, apply it fairly. Where if you're going to target one league, especially if it's something, look, at the end of the day, everybody who has ever played this game competitively, whether it was in a prior year or this year, everybody knows that account sharing is, you know, the thing that goes on that people don't really talk about, but it is very, very widespread. And if that's the case, what bugs me about it is that you guys were the only people hit. Now, if you guys were hit and then 2 days later, a bunch of other ones were there and it was just, hey, we're starting at the top, we're working our way down the leaderboard and we're hitting everybody who's guilty of this, I'd be completely okay with that. In fact, I would probably cheer that and say, hey, good job, EA. This has been going on for years, never enforced, and I'm glad to see it enforced. But for them to only hit you guys and for me to not hear about it, you know, here we are over a week later, not hear about anybody else being hit by that with all of those circumstances that you've laid out there. You know,
it's a pretty easy path to draw.
Yeah, I mean,
on that email that I sent you that's funny. Yeah, and the other thing that I want to point out on that email that I sent you is funny is that they tell the supposed cheater to go ahead and open another Madden Overdrive account if they want to continue. Like, if this guy's a cheater, shut him down. Don't encourage. It's like if somebody shoots a guy, don't take away his gun and say, hey, if you want to continue doing your
go buy
crazy activities, go get another gun supplied by EA. Like, come on, like get your stuff together. But
that is a pretty awful template email. Hey, you're cheating. We've banned your account, but feel free to go open a new account. You know, it definitely sends an odd message.
It does. But to back you up, if it wasn't so, and obviously I'm very biased.
You are, yeah. I mean, obviously,
if it was other leagues and we were all just kind of looking at each other like, hey, this sucks, we all did it, or if there was some sort of confusion, but I feel that it's such a clear delineation from, hey, we started with accusations back in January. Now here we are. It's the 1st of April. Still getting the same accusations on top of that, and it's the same 2 or 3 people who have done it. There's a very clear delineation in terms of who did this. Now, granted, like you said, he didn't go in and click ban 10 times on all those accounts, but it was a very deliberate activity from one particular league, and I think one particular individual that resulted in this. And I think that is very conflicting from a competitive league standpoint if they stand to gain from it, which they clearly do.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'll pass it off to you guys, the viewers. You know, you're sitting here. Norf is, you know, giving some of his time to come in here and talk about this, and I just want to say, the viewers, you know, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think, because I look at this and I say, you know, hey, you know, it's circumstantial. Obviously, there's no way any of us can prove anything short of someone who's a game changer either coming out and admitting to it or saying, hey, yeah, I saw red do, you know, whatever it may be. So, I mean, I look at it and I say, look, could a circumstantial case be made that game changers are essentially abusing their ability to report things in a way that instead of just reporting what's told to them, that they're almost targeting someone? If that is the case, which I am not going to jump to that. I know you probably think that that is the case, but
he's very proactive on this.
If that's the case, I do see that as being a problem. So, I ask you guys, here in the comments, you've heard this interview, you've kind of heard North's side of things, you've seen a couple of screenshots here. What do you guys think about this? And what do you think, should Game Changers, I look at it and I think, you can't take away the ability of Game Changers to report things, because that's the front line that EA has, is knowing. Otherwise, what would have, we never would have been able to shut down She Loves the D or Heroic Destiny or Mad Scientist if it wasn't for the Game Changers. And I don't think we would have been able to stop the hop and everything else. So, I do see a role there. And the thing that tears me up a little bit, North, in the whole situation is
very pro hop. Let me get that in there.
I know you're pro hop, but hey,
but that's another time. I think there's a way to resolve a lot of the gameplay desires that were fulfilled by hopping that doesn't necessarily impact lower leagues. So that's another conversation.
Yeah, but hey, day. And that one, I'm considering that one settled at this point. EA took their stance. They sided with me on that one, at least what I would have liked to see happen from it. But the one thing that concerns me about the whole idea, because I get why some people would point to, hey, we don't want Game Changers playing competitively, but I want to play devil's advocate a little bit with you on this one, just because.
Okay.
As a competitive player, right? You're at the peak of competitive play right now. I've been there in prior years. I don't care this year personally, but the competitive community wants things that are probably different from the casuals. And my fear would be is if we banned Game Changers from competitive play, that only harms EA's ability to hear the voice of the competitive community, because by having Game Changers who play competitively, whether it's PTI, whether it's 99 Problems, when they're there every day talking to EA, they feel and they experience and are personally invested in what matters to the competitive scene. And I feel like if you strip Game Changers out of that, while it could, let's based on your allegations, you think it was a targeting kind of situation, which, if that's the case, I am 100% against. But while it could avoid that thing from happening, or even the appearance of that thing happening, I think a negative impact would be your voice as a competitive player might not be able to have as much weight with EA as it does. Because if there's something that negatively impacts the competitive community, like the audible glitch, like the when they shut down the play, there's a lot of things there that I think having Game Changers who are experiencing that and are going to be just as passionate as any player who's playing competitively, to have that voice, I feel like that's kind of the double-edged sword, where you could remove that, but could it cause additional problems in ultimately restricting the voice of the competitive community with EA to not have Game Changers that are just as invested in competitive play as you guys? Because that's almost the devil's advocate idea of, you kind of have to be careful what you ask for, because if you pull the Game Changers out of it a year down the line, is the competitive community going to have that representation and voice with EA that the Game Changer program in a way does allow?
And that's something that I do agree. There have been countless times that I know not only myself, but other top competitive admins, commissioners, even just general players have reached out to Game Changers who, if the top leagues weren't competitive, or the top Game Changers might not know of the competitive situation, it would be essentially talking in Greek. However, I feel that it's something where when you see something where exclusively what you're doing solely benefits you, it doesn't feel like a mass, like we're not resolving a general problem. Like if it wasn't you and me out here putting the reasons why we feel that this banishment took place, people would still be all over Mutthead accusing us of 10 to 15 different things. And if account sharing isn't directly addressed, then what's the point in it other than problem A happened to this particular person, that particular person reported it, and it got something happened to this other league.
Sure.
Like if we're not communicating the whole purpose of this management, like even dating back to when Heroic Destiny, She Loves the D, Mad Scientist, when they all got reset, if it wasn't the community you and me and everyone else, because I know the Game Changers did not put anything out. I don't believe that there was anything from HSD or the community standpoint on why this happened that I'm aware of.
I'm going to give the Game Changers credit that they're the ones who ultimately got that done, though.
I think they got it done, but there was no communication as to why it happened. And so it just leads to general speculation. And if you don't tell people, hey, we did this for X, then X is going to continue to happen, making the entire point.
Yeah, and that's a failure of EA, in my opinion. Communication as a whole from EA as a community. And it's funny, I was reading an article on like Kokotu where it was talking about EA was firing like 350 employees or something like that.
Hey, that was the same day we got banned, so it was a good little burial from that. That was the same day that Bangate happened, and so it was like, hey, that was a good little burial.
Well, and one of the things that like, you know, one of the senior executives was talking about in that article was they said that, you know, we need to be better at communication and engaging our player base. And I 100% agree. I think that, you know, I'm all for more enforcement, more bans, more shutting, you know, more creating fair play, because the way I envision it, you know, I see mobile gaming as a whole growing. I see esports as an industry growing. So as I put in like my vision for what this could be like 2 or 3 years from now, if EA could create like a non-pay to win, fair play game with super strict enforcement of all these terms of service, there's no reason that competitive Madden Mobile, if they could fix the game in the first place, to me, that just seems like a smart business decision. You've got two growing industries that you could potentially be a part of, but as long as there is hacking and cheat utilities and all these things going on, there's no way that the Madden franchise on mobile has any chance of ever participating in esports until EA can get enforcement down. So I'm always for more enforcement, but the circumstances of this one is definitely it's definitely crummy. You know, it leaves probably more questions that none of us will ever really know the answer to. Obviously, you're going to have your opinion. It's definitely biased one way, being that your league was impacted. But I'm really curious to hear what everybody says. So I'm hoping the comments section on this video really opens up a lot of discussion. I hope it stays positive, guys. If you're going to just you guys watching this, if you're leaving it full of expletives and all this other stuff, I'm going to delete it. But if you, I would love to see nothing more than a healthy, collaborative discussion on all of these topics. So Norf, I know,
and that's what I want. Let me just get this last. First of all, the one thing I do agree with you on is that a lack of communication is something that I think EA needs to improve. In fact, I'm looking at my bullet points and I'll read this almost verbatim. It says, the EA process is 100% broken as it pertains to communication logic and the power behind which Game Changers and other influencers have to the game. So I'm wholeheartedly with that. And I think it's the debate that the viewers are going to put hopefully down below on Mutthead. Heck, hit either one of us up directly. Let's encourage debate, figure out how to, one, fix this completely broken game to improve it to where it should be, because we're in a wave where football still is the top sport far and away in America, and esports are taking off the way that they should. This should not be a failure of a year, but for whatever reason it is. And I think as we continue to have dialogue, you can continue to put out positive content that, whether you can say it does or doesn't impact, but suddenly all these changes do happen. I think positive debate that aren't just expletive filled comments below, I think that's where we find some sort of common ground. Because like I said, I think there's a common ground between league hopping and not league hopping, and that we could find it and we could improve the game because of it. I think same with head-to-head versus overdrive, or just any other aspect that we can make this a positive game and make next year's iteration even better. So that would be my goal, and I hope you continue to put out the content that you do, because it's, although people, it's very commonplace to have a negative opinion or anything. I learned this game about a year ago from you, from the content you put out, so it's your fault that I'm here.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I love the game. I'm just disappointed. Like, I feel like, you know, it's like you got your, you know, your favorite brand of phone, whether you're like an iPhone or an Android person, and like just to debate, like just to make it real. Like, I just got an update for my Android on my device, and like they changed all the icons, and I know that that's something stupid, but it bugs me, like, because I'm like, man, I knew what the icons looked like. Now they look totally different. Like, it's a bunch of changes that nobody asked for, And I feel like that's what happened with this year's Madden Mobile is we got a bunch of crap
Yep.
that nobody asked for, that nobody likes, or that very few people like. And it bugs me about EA's entire approach to how they do that. Like, I feel like Overdrive should have been added as a separate standalone game mode, but not becoming the core of the new game.
Yeah.
Like, you test it for a year, and if everybody loves it, maybe next year it's the whole game like it was this year. But to just jump away from a product that people love and change it so much that, you know, the first 2 months of the year, like, everybody was quitting. Like, it's
everybody was, because you were having to chase down all these crazy
it was nuts.
Currencies that they have.
Yeah.
You have to go play Overdrive to get renown. What is a renown?
Yeah, it was.
Come on, EA.
It was nuts. They've got more currencies than exist in the real world at this point in this.
It makes
in this
no
game.
sense. And every time they unleash a promo, it's all right. What's the conversion rate? And I just wait for somebody to calculate it, because I am openly too lazy.
It's good for me. It gives me content
thank you for
to
your
break down the insanity. But Norf, you know, thank you so much for your time today. I mean, I feel like we covered things. I think you've kind of laid out your cases for, you know, why at least you feel like, you know, maybe it's a game changer abusing their ability to report information, and almost, you know, in your eyes, it wasn't a case of reporting something, it was seeking out something to report.
100%. Yep.
You know, and I think I've made it clear, look, I support bans, but only if it's fairly enforced, and that it's not a targeted situation where if all of a sudden everybody who shared accounts was banned, I'd be cheering EA and saying, hey, that's a great step in the right direction. So I want to thank you for coming on here. Do you kind of have any closing thoughts before I let you go?
No, and it's something where even continuing to look at it, I know I've shared with you, eyes are still on us, so we're aware of that. Fortunately, even though we're competitive with some of the top leagues, I'll give them all the respect in the world. If you've earned your spot and you've beaten us, kudos to you. Look forward to hopefully continuing to see the evolution of this year's game as it turns into next year's model. Again, thank you so much for having this platform, and albeit one-sided, I feel that hopefully the evidence that I gave everyone shows that it was a very tumultuous relationship that led to this. And hey,
sure,
ultimately it comes down to the judge and jury is the peers out there and how they perceive us. Other than that, we got to get back to hoping to hold on to our number one spot as PWW and Gunslingers continue to push us. So.
All right. Well, Norf, thanks so much for sharing your side of things. Look forward to seeing your comments in there, and seeing what the debate comes out of this. You know, because again, I'm kind of as almost a neutral third party where I look at things and I think, you know, if your allegations are in fact true, I think that's total BS. You know, I think I still would like to see, you know, and that, I guess let me pose that as one final question. If in the coming week or month we start to see a bunch of bans where it was a case of, hey, this was the first time EA made a decision to enforce this part of the terms of service. Because to my knowledge, I've never seen this part of the terms of service enforced, even though it is part of the terms of service. If all of a sudden we start to see account sharing get hit wider, would that make you at least feel a little bit better that, hey, maybe you guys, even if you were targeted on the front end, now we're seeing broad blanket enforcement of that? Does that kind of make the taste a little bit better? I mean, I know you're biased and you don't want to see that. It wouldn't,
because here's the thing. It's something that I just don't view in my perception. And one of the things, okay, I'll throw this out there as something that I would ultimately change to the game. And this will help paint the picture on why it's not an issue. When you're at the top, not only myself, as well as several of my peers, both in this league and outside of it, we enjoy the fact that I want to play the chess match where I am being live counted.
Right.
So if there was something that they could put out there where it was, because it's my league as the commissioner of whatever league I'm in, and I denote someone, whether it's my admins or somebody that I can tab as a defensive coordinator, that I can go in and adjust the defensive strategy within my league so that my league wins without accessing anyone's account.
Right.
That's ultimately the goal of why we're doing it. We're not trying to flex our muscles that we're better than anyone because one particular person can do something better. But ultimately, I'd like to get a game where it's more of a chess match, and that's the value that I see out of Madden.
Yeah.
So if other people get banned for doing similar activity, it is what it is. I know that the hackers still have access to their accounts. They haven't been banned. Their leagues have just been reset.
Right.
So I guess that's where my disappointment would lie. I would understand it, but ultimately I would not want them to get banned because of it. But if it was something that was more fair, and if EA put something out there where they were saying, hey, we're saying this is why we're doing something, take it or leave it, and this is how it's going to be capital punishment, or you're going to see warnings or whatever it is, we're at least making a statement behind it so that you know what's going on. That's something that I would be in favor of.
Fantastic. All right. Well, North, thank you so much for your time today, man. Thanks for sharing all of this, starting the discussion, keeping the discussion going. Thanks for being a supporter of the channel too, man.
No, appreciate it, man. Nothing but the best for you.
I know. I know you got some in your league who are not a fan of me. I won't call you out, Taproot. Just kidding.
My boy Taproot. He's the one that termed that term cockroach, so I got to shout him out. So
yeah, but obviously he's not a fan of me. But that's okay. But hey, thanks so much for coming on, man. Thanks for kind of helping.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate the platform.
We'll pass along any updates that come along from here. So thanks so much, man, and hope you have a great rest of your day.